I'm not going to learn from anyone. As long as I'm doing my job, as long as I'm getting paid, it's enough for me. And I don't have to teach anyone else. I just have to go sign the record book out. If it gives me a problem, there's another department. Field engineer is there. They will come and sort it out. That's not the mindset that I like to see. I like guys to
Hey everyone, we are finally here. The first episode of SkylineMedia podcast is officially with you. The wait is over. Our journey of unscripted storytelling officially starts now. So let's get into it. Teboho, welcome to the podcast. I feel like I should pay you for this, brother.
Thank you very much, Lawrence. What I can say is thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity. You make me feel like a trendsetter. The first episode, I'm invited to do it. Thank you very much to Skyline Media.
It's a pleasure. I should mention to our audience that we did have a first attempt which failed miserably. So that set us back with like 4 or 5 days. But as you say, it's our first episode, so we learn. Like you
Yes.
also said in the first recording that failed, that we rise by uplifting others. That
Yes.
quote has really
Yes.
stuck with me the past week. So you've done well, even though we even haven't launched yet.
Thank you
So
very much. Thank you very much.
just to give you a little introduction from my side, Teboho is from a very humble background in a little township in South Africa. Teboho, you want to tell us a bit more?
Yes, I'm actually from, I was raised in a small township called Everton. It's about 80 kilometers. It's in the Joburg South, about 80 kilometers to Johannesburg. Our nearest town is Vereeniging and Vanderbijlpark. I'm not sure if you've ever heard about those towns. Yeah, I was traveling with a train to Joburg. Yes, which is, like I said, about 80 kilometers away. I really come from humble beginnings. The township has taught me a lot. It has actually raised me. It has taught me discipline, survival, and humility. But chasing opportunities meant stepping into the unknown. That means the big city. That's how I got to get to Joburg to start my apprenticeship. Yeah. So that's a little bit of a background. I'll give you more as we continue.
There we go. So on LinkedIn, when I first contacted you, you sent me a little brief explanation of who you are and where you're from, and what caught my eye is that you mentioned in that message where you said that you now work in the buildings that you once cleaned, which is a full circle. So what I want to ask you is, what was it like stepping back into those spaces, but this time being the authoritarian figure in the building as a lift mechanic instead of just an operative or helper?
Well, it was a wonderful opportunity. It was a wow moment for me because when I was cleaning, we were cleaning those buildings, preparing them for handover. A building that's just been constructed. The windows are still full of cement, paint on the skirtings, and all of that. So, from that moment when I was doing cleaning in those buildings, I never in my wildest dreams thought that one day I'm gonna step back as a lift mechanic or as an apprentice or coming back to fix the lifts. I didn't even bother to look at lifts, the shafts, where the lifts were, because to me, that was something that I couldn't even think about. For me, it was just about cleaning and, when you're there, you work with a razor almost like the whole day, scraping that cement on the windows, scraping that paint on the skirtings, even on the windows, and cleaning carpets. cleaning that rubble on those buildings. As for me, it was just a matter of survival. I didn't really think that one day I'm going to step back into those buildings when they are nicely done as a lift mechanic. I didn't honestly think about that. And when I went back as a lift mechanic, it was a wow moment. I was like, yo,
Yeah, yeah.
I used to come here when they were still developing. I'm now stepping back now as someone important, because now when the lift is stuck, you there, they're looking at your for your expertise to ensure that everything is moving well. You become someone important. You're no longer that boy who came here scraping cement, cleaning rubble. It was quite a fascinating and a wonderful experience.
If I can just jump in and ask you, so with if you take South Africa's past in consideration, I mean that you qualified in 2004, you officially started on your qualification phase since 2004. That's 21 years ago. But what I'd like to know is the transition period between 1994 and 2004 is a very short space. So that's like 9 years. Um, so South Africa was obviously still in the transition phase from the old system to the new one. I don't want to say it on its name because it was a horrible period in our country, and I think we all are grateful that it's over and we can move forward. But what I want to know from you is the mental resilience to keep up and to cope with the systematic barriers that you faced from 1994 till to 2004 by the end of your apprenticeship and with your previous work. How was that transition? Was it mentally easy to cope with, or did you have to adapt every day?
Well, we had to adapt every day. And remember, back then, the lifting industry was actually reserved. It was an industry that was reserved for only whites and colored people. Black people were only assistants. So what I did in those buildings before I became a lift mechanic, it is something that most of the black guys were actually doing. They were only cleaning the pits, they were only cleaning the motor rooms, they were only cleaning the top of cars, reading diagrams, and all of that was something of limits. So the transition was not easy, honestly. When I started in the elevator industry, I faced, I would say, loneliness because I was far from the family most of the time because I was now in the big city. I had to deal with financial stress, self doubt, and the pressure to succeed quickly because I'm now doing something that I never dreamed that one day I'll be doing it. Uh, I fought to be seen, fight to prove yourself in a place where people don't even know your story or even care to ask. So the transition wasn't really that easy. But I stayed focused because back home I knew that there were eyes watching me. I had to make it work, not just for me, but to inspire others who believe their dreams are too far from where they stand. When you are still in the location, in the township, you look at the big city as a place that is too far, that you are unable to reach, that your dreams are unreachable. So with perseverance, faith, discipline, and hard work, I kept going. I kept showing up.
Faith is important.
Yes, yes. I knew one thing, that I didn't come to the big city to blend in, but I came to elevate. And I still carry that mission every day, that we lift others as we rise. Hence, you saying that statement, it's still like with you. So, yeah.
Yeah, I've got my own little one, which says, I'm sure you've seen it. It's even Skyline Media's little slogan. It's elevate your standards and escalate your accountability.
Yes,
And
and it's quite
I
nice.
think
It's catchy.
what's quite cool is with the escalate your accountability is that that's basically encapsulating your whole life, where you've really stepped up and you've been accountable for your actions. And reading back on your history, it seems like the lesson that especially young apprentices can learn from you is that be accountable, be focused, love your God, love your family, and then the apprenticeship is easy. As long as if you have those cornerstones, which is basically your life, if you have those cornerstones set in place, and that will be the foundation of your apprenticeship. Even as a young mechanic, you love your family, because who else are you doing this for? You're not doing it for yourself. At the end of the day, you are doing it for the betterment of your family. If you're a single man, oh lovely, then you don't mind sleeping in a motorroom. If you've
Yes,
got a
yes,
family, then you want to go home to them. So
yes,
you being accountable for your actions as a young lift mechanic or an apprentice, and and I think that's the main motivation or the main take we can take out of your life. Um, and this is the reason why Skyline Media exists, is for these type of lessons. And I'm grateful that you are prepared to open up, because it takes balls. It takes balls to talk about pre, like I would actually say pre 2002, because I feel since '94 up until the early stages of the 2000s, we were technically still in the apartheid as we transitioned.
yes,
If
yes, that's
I don't know,
correct.
I'm too young. I didn't live through that year, so I don't know. But what I could gather from from I do a lot of reading. What I could gather, it seemed like the transition took longer than just boom, election, boom, done. Everything's okay now. All is forgiven. Especially in the technical field.
Yes, yes, and it takes quite some time to actually change a mindset of other people, Like you were saying that we here to inspire this, the whole motive of this podcast is to motivate the young apprentices, young mechanics who are starting out. So just a little bit to share a little bit on that. My strength did not come from lifting weights. My strength came from lifting myself up every time I was knocked down, because life can really knock you down. Life can really humble you. So actually, every setback that I faced was in the end. That's what I kept telling myself, that every setback is just a test of your will, your willingness to keep going forward, your willingness to keep showing up. It was a chance to rise again and to rise stronger and wiser, because every time you fall, you've got two choices: either you stay down there, or you lift yourself up, or you find motivation somewhere to keep going, because by lifting weights, at times, as times goes on, the muscles fade, but the resilience, it endures forever. And the
Yes,
real
100%.
strength is in the courage to stand back up time after time, no matter how hard life hits, you have to keep
What's
rising.
important is where you said that it doesn't matter how life hits. Uh, a lesson that I've been taught at a very young age, and I'm very grateful for the mentors I had in the industry, because one of my mentors actually taught this to me, is and he said, remember, a lion does not lose sleep over the opinions of sheep. So if you want to be the big boy, but you must be prepared to flex your mane, as this lion that you portray yourself to be. And there will always be, especially in our industry that is so small, there will always be naysayers and say, no, you can't do this, you can't do that. And it, I mean, look at yourself. You came from an assistant background all the way through to a field engineering background, all within the last 2 decades. Now, I mean, in any work, in any field that you go work, it will at least take you 20 years to have a solid foundation in the industry that you work in, to know enough to progress up the ladder. Now, the thing that I think we missed is patience. Just be patient. I wish I knew that when I was just starting out. Like, I wanted everything now. I wanted my route now. I wanted my car now. I wanted my tools now. I just wanted to get started, which is probably not a bad thing because you're motivated, but everything comes at its own time. And that's where the faith part comes in. Irrespective of what religion you are, it's important to have something greater than yourself that you can cling on to,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
And I also
Um,
believe in the principle of seed, time, and harvest. You plant a seed, there's a certain time before you can harvest. I mean, it's a biblical principle that you have to have patience because things don't just happen overnight. It takes a period of time. You go to a restaurant, they will tell you that good food takes time to prepare. You can't just enter and order something and get it immediately. No, no, no. Doesn't happen like that. Patience is the most important thing, like you just said.
it's 100%. Then there's a you can debate me a little on this if you want to, but during your apprenticeship, personally, my personal experiences were that if you surround yourself with too many mechanics, you tend to get confused with the way and techniques that they all use to perform a certain task. So what I my advice is that when you start your apprenticeship, you need to get to know your company a lot faster than usual because it's the start of your learning journey. So you need to lay the foundation in your company early. You need to find the best person close to you early, and you need to stick with that person early, uh, just to so that you can develop through one mind when it comes to performing certain tasks instead of getting confused with like 13, 14 different people doing the same task. um, that's just my 2 cents. I don't know what you feel. And you are allowed to disagree with me as well. That's why we
Yes, yes. Actually, I beg to differ on that one. Reason being, when I started in the industry, I didn't even know what being a lift mechanic entails. I remember vividly in my mind that seeing an elevator, I used to see a COP, and I thought from an electrical background that I'm going to be working on this panel, that the COP is going to be, that the entire job is going to be on
mm,
this panel and maybe
because that's what you
replacing
can
the
see.
car lights. Yes, because that's what I was exposed to when I entered a lift. So when the journey started, I preferred working with different guys just for a sense of understanding how each one works. And I was only taking the good out of them because each guy is a different character. Their work ethic, it's not the same. And the ones that I thought are the right guys to work with, to learn from, I then started doing standby with them. I would just ask a guy, if only you will be able to take me to the train station, maybe to catch the last train, or if you are willing to take me home, I can work with you, just so I can understand how they are performing under pressure, how they are handling themselves under pressure. And one thing about myself was that maybe say I work with one mechanic and then he teaches me something. Let's say, for an example, to install detectors or MEMCOs, as other companies might call them. When I work with the next one and he say, "Do you know how to?" I would say no. Not because I didn't know. I just wanted to learn maybe another way of doing it. And I
Maybe
could
there's an
find
easier
it,
way.
yes, I could find it easier now because now I know two different methods of doing the same thing. And out of those two methods, I could actually create my own method, which is quite easier for me to understand. So every time I would go with the teachable spirit. I didn't want to go with the mindset that I know, I know. Even today, I still carry on with that spirit that, you know what, there's always something that you can learn, no matter the people that we come across, because I learned this trade from the beginning from the assistants, because back then when we were sent to the field, it was quite a difficult time. I did my apprentice with Otis, by the way. So back then they were about to lose a major brawl portfolio. So now we had to go out there
Brol,
to
which is a property developer in South Africa, isn't it?
yes. So Brol was about to cancel the contract, and what Otis did, they bought us the new toolboxes, and then we had to go and clean the shafts. You know how to clean a high-rise building, starting from the machine room. And that's how I fell in love with the idea of doing maintenance, because to me it was like maintenance is cleaning. I was cleaning buildings, I was cleaning rubble from the buildings. So now I'm here to clean again. And I fell in love with that idea because I realized that in this industry, when you work in a clean environment, say your motorroom is clean, when you come back and there's a oil spill on the floor or there's a bolt that was not there, that teaches you something, that there's something wrong somewhere. Maybe there's vibration somewhere and things are just falling apart. So that would help us to do what we call preventative maintenance. When your job is sparkling clean, you can see if there's anything wrong with it. But when the job is dirty, it's filthy, and those are mostly the problematic jobs where now fault finding becomes a mission.
As a field engineer, if you go to a sick unit, or in Australia it's called a rogue unit, um, other countries might call it a retarded unit or something. But if as a field engineer, if you rock up to site and you need to sort out the sick unit and you get dirty, then you know, okay, this dude has just been sitting on his phone in the mud room. That's why this lift is
That's
sick.
correct.
Because
That's correct.
you can clearly see, just simple example, the fluff underneath the car door header. You can clearly see when was the last time this car door was serviced, just based on the fluff below
Yes,
the car door. I
yes,
remember
yeah.
Otis used to have old drip trays below the big 6970 door operators,
The
drip trays full
operator,
of oil.
yes,
Now you can clearly see if a mechanic felt nothing for that lift by just, okay, you go there and you have to use up 8 rags just to soak up all the oil. So it's true what you say. You need to keep your jobs tidy and you need to keep your jobs clean. As an apprentice, your whole apprenticeship will be marked on how well you clean. Now you might
yes,
think
that's
as an
correct.
apprentice that, I'm getting paid to be a glorified cleaner. You're not. Because remember, you need to know what you're physically cleaning. So if you, for example, if you take your brush and you are wiping down a governor, you need to know, centrifugal force is actually pushing this back. This causes the governor rope to get pulled in. This causes the safety gear to engage. Why does centrifugal force enact? That happens when the lift overspeeds in whatever direction the governor works. If it's a counterweight governor, why do we have a counterweight governor? Okay, there's parking below the basement. You need to know what you're physically cleaning. Um, if if you see yourself as a glorified cleaner and you step into a motorroom and you just clean, you just want to get your 8 hours gone, you're in the wrong industry. 100%. You're in the wrong industry. I was very impressed out in this area where I work physically. There's a young boy, he's 12 years old, 11, 12 years old, and this happened during the week. He came up to me telling me what Schindler door drive that was, and it was a very door 35 Schindler door
Wow,
drive. 12 years old.
wow, wow,
I was like,
wow.
oh, what just happened? What just happened?
Yeah, yeah,
Yes, that's just a motivation. So that you can imagine that kid when he turns 16 and he's allowed to start working. You can imagine when he cleans, he's going to be inquisitive to see, brush there. What's that? What's that? What's that? And he's going to start tinkering and start figuring stuff out. So you mustn't see yourself as a glorified cleaner only. You should You should know what you're cleaning and why you're doing it. And for
yes,
some
yes.
reason, if a job is clean, the lifts don't get stuck. They just
That's
don't get stuck.
correct. I've
It just
seen
don't.
that as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the other thing is, I've worked with some mechanics who maybe say he leaves you in a motor room. The motor room is dirty. You clean the motor room. By the way, you got there, the lift was running fine. And after cleaning, you switch on the lift and it's not moving at all. Normally, I remember I would be told, you know what, the last thing that you did, or focus on where you were cleaning. That's where your problem is, because most of the time we take a broom to sweep the floor and sweep a governor by mistake with a broom, and the next thing the lift is not working. And now, because I was like that 12-year-old boy, I was always curious. I was inquisitive. I wanted to learn much. I wouldn't call my journeyman to say this lift, it doesn't move at all. I would remember that, look at what you were doing and focus there. And someday, many a times I would go, oh, the governor is stripped, and then reset. And that gives you pride. Also, to work in a clean environment, it gives you pride. Because I remember standing next to the motorroom door before I could leave and look back and really see the difference that I've made in that motorroom. That gave me joy and a sense of pride to say, you know what, even though people might think that I'm just here to clean, looking at you cleaning the pit, but that gave me so much joy that, you know what, I'm earning the knowledge as well as money at the same times by doing what you love. You know, you end up loving doing the cleaning, because, as you said, you learn a lot by cleaning, by knowing. Because at times when the journeyman comes to pick you up, may say he left you with a job, you start asking questions. What is that? What is the reason? Why is it there? And there, the moment you ask questions, the moment you learn a lot of things. So
Just a quick story before we move on. When I used to go to do a lot of training in Johannesburg during my apprenticeship, I was fortunate to work with the top five company with Otis as my apprenticeship, and there was a journeyman there. His name was Nico. So Nico was unfortunately not. He passed away. He passed away about 8 years ago. He was also freshly qualified, and there was a job in Gauteng where they needed just a quick hand. Now I will remember I was in training back then, and so I hop into the bakkie, or in Australia it's called the ute. We hop into the ute and we head off to the job. And I remember walking up to the motorroom, and he tells me, "Hey, what you doing?" I'm like, "No, I'm gonna go to the motorroom." He's like, "Take off your shoes."
yo,
Take off my shoes. He tells me, dead serious, take off your
yeah,
shoes. I'm like,
yo,
okay, take off my shoes. I walk into that floor, Teboho. I'm not lying to you. I look down, I see my reflection in the floor, on the floor.
wow, wow,
That's how clean it was.
wow,
Like, hey, take off your
yeah,
shoes.
yeah,
And
yeah,
apparently, I don't know how far through this is. He used to do it with consultants also. And they loved him for that.
wow,
He used to
yo,
tell the consultants, the government consultants, take off your shoes. You
yeah,
don't go into my
yeah.
motorroom with shoes on because you're going to leave marks on my floor.
Yo,
Wow.
yeah, no, the
So
man
that's the
really had
kind of pride
pride.
that you need to have in your
Mm,
work. That's the
yeah,
kind
that's
of pride.
correct. That's correct.
Is that the legacy you want to leave, or what? Well, what's the legacy you want to leave?
Well, the legacy that I want to leave, it's elevating people, not just elevators, you know. I want to be remembered not just for the elevators that I commissioned or the faults that I resolved, but for the life I have touched. You know, for a young technician that I believed in, you know, and the standard of excellence and humility that I upheld when no one was watching. Like we talking about cleaning, you know, wherever you have cleaned. One of the journeymen used to say, make sure that when you leave a job site, that when someone else coming after you must see that someone was here, you know. So that's the legacy that I want to leave. I want the apprentice who once doubted himself to say, Teboho showed me that I belong in this industry, you know. I want the technician who worked beside me to say that he never kept knowledge to himself. He always shared, always lifted others, you know. And I want the companies that I worked with to say he brought not just technical skills, but integrity, resilience, and leadership to every side, you know. my legacy is about passing the torch while I'm still carrying it, being the mirror and the ladder, reflecting potential and helping others to climb. I don't want to be the best in the room, but I want to create more room full of the best. That's the legacy I want
Nice.
to live in
That's
this
brilliant.
industry.
I don't want to be the
Yes.
best in the room. I want to create a room with, wow,
Which is what
nice.
you are doing. You are creating room for all of us, and by sharing this knowledge, like on this platform, we're going to impact others. I normally say that I'm not in this industry to impress, or I'm not on LinkedIn writing what I'm writing, sharing my knowledge to impress, but I'm doing all of that to impact lives, to give hope to the hopeless.
Season one of this podcast, of which you're the first episode, is just about mental health in our industry. I think as a male dominant industry already, we have a lot on our shoulders. I think people do not understand, or they do not fully comprehend the struggles that your normal lift mechanic needs to go through day by day. Like if you're in a busy central business district and you get your 10, 12 call outs per day, that's already a big strain on you, because you have to service all of your lifts by the end of the month. And I spoke to a gentleman, I won't mention the company he works for, but he runs 165 units on his route. I
A
mean,
month,
how a
that's
month? Yes,
insane. That's
that's insane.
insane.
And we think it's insane, but for other, in especially in the States and in Australia, it's normal. And the guys are so
Yo,
under pressure.
yo.
And I want them to listen to this podcast and say, look, okay, I'm not alone. And this guy had this struggle, and this guy had this struggle, and I can adapt myself because I've learned from something I've heard on a random podcast in the middle of nowhere. That's mainly the aim. And people like you that shares knowledge on LinkedIn, and that's why I reached out to you, because you're not scared to share your knowledge. Um, Even though the industry is so demanding and you're busy every day, that I know, because you're a field engineer for Kony, which is a
Yes,
big
yes,
company, and you're fortunate to work for them, but they're also fortunate to have you. Uh, it's not the company that makes the person, but the person who makes the company at the end of the day. And yeah, I'm very grateful to have you on. But I want to know, before we slowly start closing off the podcast, is what's next for you. What keeps you excited about the future, and what keeps you motivated after 21 years?
Uh, that is sharing the knowledge that I have, because at some point in my journey as from an apprentice, even after I had qualified, I came across a lot of guys who don't want to share the knowledge that they have. Guys who would actually step in front of a controller and ensure that you can see what they are doing. Guys who would look at the wiring diagram and keep, when you ask what is it that you are doing, they can't even explain to you what they are doing. So for me, what keeps me motivated is actually sharing the knowledge that I have with other people. When I walk on site, I start asking guys the questions, especially because mainly I work with installers most of the time. The guys who are doing the installation. What is this drive? What is it called? Why is it there? What, you know, and when I leave site, the knowledge, the smile on their faces, it's like the guys are looking up to the next visit. When are you coming again? That's what keeps me motivated to change someone else's perspective, to teach someone something that I know, because they say knowledge, it's only useful when it's shared. Sharing what I know and motivating guys that, what, one day you will become the person that I am. One day you will be you are the next field engineer. Keep motivating others actually motivates me to actually wake up in the morning to go and make a difference in someone else's life. That's what keeps me going. I remember one day I was working in Durban in Field Street. Hey, we meeting people out there. So remember from the township, the idea of a mechanic, it's a filthy guy who's always full of oil and grease by the street corner somewhere there under a tree fixing vehicles. So the idea of a mechanic, we always want to see someone with overalls full of grease, full of oil. And I remember one day I was working at it's Sage Life building. It's in Field Street in Durban. I still remember that very well. So what I used to do was I used to get to site maybe around 6 o'clock and then stop a lift, and then mostly I would do what the customer sees. The old lifts used to work with a position indicator light, the PI light. So I used to get annoyed and frustrated when I'm standing on the ground floor, and then you see there's a lift coming, 20, 19, 18, and then 13, all of a sudden 10. you know, when the lift is stuck, the first thing when you enter the building, where is the lift stuck? Nobody knows because. So I used to be annoyed by that. So what I would do, stop the lift and mark all the lights, the PI lights that are not working, and then replace them, ensure that the ones on the ground floor are all working, so that you know where the lift is at all times. So one day, I'm standing with a guy. He's a security guy. The slash. He's like the guy that I was reporting to. And this woman, she's a cleaner there. She doesn't even greet me. She doesn't. She talks to this security guy, but she's talking about me. And she said, "Hey, you can only see the way he dressed. That's so. No wonder these lifts are always stuck. No wonder they are always not working." And, I couldn't hold myself. I said, you know what? It's people like you who make sure that the next generation of guys, the guys who are still students, don't want to become mechanics, because you've got that perception of a filthy mechanic. Now, because I'm a lift mechanic, I must be dirty. I said to her, I look like this because number one, I want to be presentable. Number two, I make sure that I clean everywhere I work so that I don't dirty my clothes. I'm always like this. Number three, when I meet students, because when you work in town, especially when you're doing a walking route, some of the buildings, there's colleges there. So now I want, when I meet a student, seeing me fixing a lift, they must be inspired, wish that one day it could be them doing that, not this filthy guy who's always. Because I once met one guy, we were going to attend a funeral. So I'm standing with my colleague. And then this guy is wearing suits and all that. He's saying to us, guy, you guys inspire me. You are the next generation of mechanics that are always clean, always looking presentable. And this is what I wanted to become. But every time when I say I wanted to become a mechanic, my father would hold my hands, take me to that street corner under that tree, and point at that mechanic to say, do you want to look like that? Is this what you want for your life? And eventually I ended up studying IT and things I didn't want. I'm working in an office. I'm always frustrated. But when I look at you guys as mechanics, you always clean, you always presentable. This is what I wanted for my life. And I wish I could take you to my father to show him this is what I wanted. So changing the perception of other people about a mechanic, it's one thing that motivates me a lot.
I think
It's
I think
good.
the that last section that you spoke about, that yeah, you went to show your dad, and this is what I want to do, and there's obviously a lot of disagreement, but I think we've got a big underlying issue with that. It's an issue that personally I think will be the downfall of not just our industry but all niche industries. So what I pick up, not just where I work in Australia, which is uh, very far away from South Africa, but we've got exactly the same issue. The issue is that there's not enough youngsters coming in fast enough. So the industry is aging rapidly, and we are not recycling the old with the new far quick enough. And what this is going to lead to is you're going to have we're going to reach a stage where we can't afford to let people retire. So you're going to literally work people into their deathbeds just so that the lift can run, because the youngsters don't know enough about our industry to become motivated and say, okay, this actually sounds pretty cool. So just to add on your point, um, we need more stories like yours, like this last, especially the last segment, that you want to motivate youngsters. We want to engage with students and say, look, this is actually a mechanic. It's not just all oil and all grill. It's so much more than that. And if you are a qualified technician listening to this podcast right now, I want you to slap in the comment section below just one verse, just one sentence. What keeps me motivated in the industry? And then what I will do is I will take snapshots of the comment section, and then I will turn that into like a nice little poster, and I will have that as my LinkedIn uh, social banner, my YouTube social banner, my Facebook social banner, so that we can actually motivate youngsters to step into the industry. And and it's important for you to, not just for you, Teboho, but for everybody that's listening, even myself. If you have a fellow technician, whether he's an aircon technician or a lift technician, and you see the guy is not feeling okay, and you can literally see, okay, well, something's bothering that guy. It costs you nothing just to ask him, are you okay? Um, Being a male dominant field, we tend to think that, no, I'm a man, I must hide, I must just smile and wave. That's not the case. That's not the case. You should never feel that you've got nobody to talk to. So, if there's one takeaway from this podcast, um, if you're an apprentice, let's put you on the sideline quickly because you're just starting your journey. You don't have the right to have mental fatigue yet. But a veteran technician, as like the Teboho or whoever, that's you can see, okay, this guy had a tough week on standby. Just go give him a tap on the shoulder and just say, you know what, you'll be fine. Do you want me to take over? Try and help your fellow mechanic. Because that way, when we are there for each other mentally, we can actually increase the motivation in the field, and we can actually then increase motivation outside of our company. Because if you're in a good mood in your industry, you'd want to talk about the industry with other people outside of the industry. Make sense? But if you're under pressure at work, and if you're not feeling it, and you're really overworked and tired and nobody has your back, and you've got issues at home now building up because you're bringing that work pressure home and you're always in a bad mood. I mean, that's not good for you. That's not good for us. That's not good for the whole industry. And it's definitely not good for our future. So if I can implore everybody just to be a little less selfish, and if something bothers you, speak up. And not just you, but give a hug, and you will receive a hug the next time you need one. It's okay. It's okay not to be okay. And we need to talk about it. And yeah, and take the Teboho story as motivation, that from systematic barriers that you faced all the way through. Here you are, you field engineer, you're doing well for yourself, you're looking after your family, okay, you are healthy, everything will be okay. Even though you did all that standby, even though you had all that bosses in your past hammering, wow, why is your call so low? Why is the call out so high? We've all been there, and it will pass,
Mm,
and you will
mm.
be okay.
And the other
I think
thing
that's
is, guys say they are struggling with a job or with a fault or something. The best thing to do is to remember that there's a team around you that's there to assist you. You mustn't take the fault with you and carry it with you like it's your own. Sometimes we must be able to not pass on the buck, but consult with your fellow technicians, with those who came before you. Consult with other fellow mechanics to say, guys, hey, here's a problem here. I don't seem to be coming right. How can I do? Or can you quickly come to my side and just give me a hand so that I can learn? But
And
I've
if
seen
you,
a
sorry to
culture.
interrupt you,
Okay,
sorry to interrupt you, and if you don't have that team around you, you're at the wrong company. I can tell you now. If you don't have that around you, if you're not surrounded by that people, you're at the wrong company. Leave.
that's
Leave tomorrow.
correct. Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
continue.
Yeah. So as I was saying that sometimes I've seen this culture of guys treating other guys from different company. Like say you coming from another company, they treat you like an outsider. It's like they can't learn a lot from you. That's a terrible culture, and guys are not learning out there because of that mindset. I've seen guys coming to our department to say, you know what, I need assistant. I've switched off that lift because of one, two, three. And when you go out there, the technician, instead of coming to learn from you, they would tell you, I'm busy, I need to do this and that. Just go and fix the lift and then you'll give me feedback. And I'm like, wow, during my time, I would be there first thing to try and learn so that next time when I come across the same problem, I don't have to call someone to come fix it for me, rather I'm learning something out of other people, and it's the culture that came from those who were hiding, don't want to show other guys how it's done, don't want to. So those that came after them have actually they have that unteachable spirit, that I'm not gonna learn from anyone. As long as I'm doing my job, as long as I'm getting paid, it's enough for me. And I don't have to teach anyone else. I just have to go sign the record book out. If it gives me a problem, there's another department. Field engineer is there. They will come and sort it out. That's not the mindset that I like to see. I like guys to be passionate about, that joy that you get, the pride that you get after fixing a lift, after finding a problem. It's like you can share that with another person. Hey, this was the I come from that generation that was like that, because remember I said most of us we learned from the guys who were assistants, the guys who never got the opportunity to actually get somewhere, but they manage to have that spirit of engaging with the apprentices and teaching them what they know, and they wished to see us become the best that we can be. So hence, I have this spirit of saying, what, I wish I could motivate other guys, and yeah.
I think that's a good way to end. It's a good way to end. It's absorb like a sponge, share like a shower head, be teachable, and don't be scared to speak up. I think that's a very
Yes.
good way to end.
Can I just end with something very important?
Yeah.
Before, remember, we did mention that we did the first take and then something went wrong. We ended where you asked me to a 23-year-old self
What advice? How can I
entering.
forget? Yeah, we can end on that. That's a
Yes,
good idea.
yes.
What
So
what advice would you give to a 23-year-old Teboho?
yes, yes. The advice that I can give is that don't just focus on fixing lifts, focus on lifting people too. The bolts, the wiring, commissioning challenges, they do matter, yes, and they keep us growing. But what truly lasts is the junior mechanic that you took extra 10 minutes to show them something they never know, to that extra 10 minutes that you take to mentor them, the client that you earned through integrity, not shortcuts, because cutting corners in this industry, it's not something that is good, the team that you kept calm under pressure, the lessons you shared, and even when no one asked for them, sharing your knowledge. Hence, I said shared knowledge, it's more useful than the knowledge that you keep to yourself, because you keep it and then after a month or 2, 3 months, you have forgotten yourself about that. So this industry has actually given me everything: hard times, hard days, proud moments, lessons and learned, and the lessons that I've learned the hard way. But the most importantly, it has shown me that we grow by lifting others. That's my motto. That's my mantra. That's what I always live by. Every shaft that we step into is an opportunity to rise and to help someone else do the same. We're here to make a difference. We're here to change, to impact other people. Uh, the last thing I would say, uh, lift others as you rise, because we are here to make a difference. We are here to mentor others. We are here to share the knowledge that we also learned from others. I remember when I started here, I was a blank page. I knew nothing. And the information or the knowledge I gathered from different people, I gathered. So I believe it's an opportunity for me also to share this knowledge, to impact other people.
Let's run with that message. We rise by lifting others. Teboho, I want to thank you again for joining me. Guys, if you have not liked and subscribed, please do so. And yeah, let's share this podcast with our buddies, and yeah, let's grow the Skyline Media family, and let's learn from each other. If you feel you can provide, stories or anything, reach out to us. We are more than willing to collaborate with any shape of size in the industry. It does not matter. Remember, season 1, all about mental health. Teboho, you are the definition of mental health. I want to congratulate you on your career, and I really wish all the best, and I hope that you grow as well as you help others to grow. I mean, in that regard, I think you deserve to be a little bit selfish and think about yourself as well. Your caring attitude towards other technicians and your friendliness and things is it's very captivating, and I'm just in awe of your story, and I thank you so much for sharing it with us. Thank you,
I
Teboho.
thank you for this wonderful opportunity. And together we can change our industry. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share a little bit of my 2 cents. Thank you. I
No
really
worries.
appreciate it. I appreciate you, sir. Thanks.